Let's talk about karmic mothers because it's coming up for me and I gotta clear it out. Trigger warning for anyone listening who may have a mother wound, which I hear that we all do, due to our severance at birth, which I'm writing a book about, meaning being cut for your mother's womb in the way that they do it Western wise, meaning not a lotus birth, which allows you to sever from your mother, right? In a time in which you have gained all nutrients required for your descending, right? So what's coming up in this moment, because there's so much to share that I'm not getting into right now, is what came up for me before I turn on this camera. And that's that how to know your mother is a karmic. This is deep. This message may come across my mother's timeline. So be it. She is still alive. This is a transmission that she may need to see, and that is not my purpose in creating this. So may all souls who need to understand and dive into their mother wounds digest this video in love, light, understanding, and in healing. This is not a shame, a video of pain. It's a video of evaluation, self-analyzation, self-actualization, and moving into my highest self through my pain. So what's coming to me is when I was about 11 years old, that I can recall, I was asked, was I touched by a family member who happened to be an older cousin, just about 3 years older, so I give him about 14. But at 14 versus 11, your mindset, you know more, you emote more, your dick getting hard, you understand, as a masculine. You have these emotions. As a feminine at that age, to be honest, and this is extremely candid, just something I'm writing and putting into a book and learning to formulate and starting to understand where these energies come from, is that I possessed a very sexual energy as a child. There's a few memories and definite things that I know about myself that even if I can't remember what I did on the 4th of July as a child, I remember that I knew how to bring myself to orgasm, like by the age of 5. Why is this? Why is this so? And alone, you know, this was not assisted. So it's just very, even now, uncanny to me, and trying to go back and understand what brought me into this understanding of myself. So when I was about 10 or 11, my mother went away for a job. She trusted an aunt to come in and care for her 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe about 5 or 6 children at the time. My mom is a mother of 7. Whole story about that. I'm not getting into it. So I noticed that my cousin, I wouldn't even say took a liking to me. Maybe if my siblings, if I ever asked my siblings, maybe they would notice that there was extra time spent. But as a child, I don't remember those particular moments. I do remember being ridden on the bike, like, oh, we're going to McDonald's to get some fries. You know, he's 14. Get me for some fries. But on the ride there, I'm on the handlebars. You know, old school style. You ride the handlebars. And they have pegs back then, which is so cool now. Thank God for pegs. You know, I remember him, like, caressing my ass on the bike and shit like that. And I'm, like, thinking in my head, this isn't right. And this is in all honesty, in my kid mind. This isn't right. I can feel that this isn't right. Something isn't right about this. But it doesn't feel painful. Not that it doesn't feel wrong. It doesn't feel painful. So that was my processing in that moment. I never spoke to his mom about it, partly because at times, there was times she was there. And she saw her son doing particular things. God rest her soul, because this lady passed like less than a year ago. She watched her son touch me in her pill-induced high sedations, okay, while my mother was away. And this was the only trusted adult. Our fathers were not there. My father had been on a 26 to life jail stint, okay? I'm not getting into that right now. So, yeah. Who was I to go to? The person who knew that this was happening to me was physically, viscerally, not mentally, but physically there, right? 155, 551. So I may get emotional because this is real life, okay? The only thing I ever want to display to you is my truth. I'm not here to lie to you. I'm not here to sugarcoat shit. I am a true human being. This is not AI speaking to you. This is my true experience with life and the things that I've had to digest, integrate to become my highest self. And at times emotions come up. We're emotional beings. We're here to experience. But I want you to know I am not shameful and I am not in pain about my journey. I'm here to share and release this to you as I have come to digest it. Okay? So I was not penetrated by my cousin, but I was touched in ways by my cousin, in places by my cousin that should have not been the first way that I was introduced to the touch of a masculine energy. Do you understand me? Okay? I never told my mom. She was away, as I said, at work. I never told her. My aunt was there watching it. There was no reason to tell her. I had 2 older sisters and a twin brother. I never told them. How did they find out? One day we were on a road trip bringing that aunt and her son, my cousin, back home to New Orleans. Yes, I'm from New Orleans. And I'm the smallest of us all, besides my brother, who was about 5 or 6 at the time. And I have a twin and then a younger brother. That's the 2. I also have 2 other brothers, but they're not my mother's. They're my father's 2 other children. Love them dearly, but they're not born of my mother. Upon the trip, we were deciding on seating. Because I was one of the smallest, oddly and strange enough, I was sat on the floor of the back seating floor. I'm sure other people have sat this way, old school style, like making space in the car. Perhaps. But this is where I was told to sit. I don't remember really anyone being on the other side on the floor, but this is where I was told to sit, that I recall. And I'd fallen asleep. But where was I sitting? In between that particular cousin's lap. Call him by name, spirit is saying George Johnson. So I sat in between George's legs on the road trip, and I fell asleep. Naturally, we're on a trip. 7 hours. I'm not about to stay up. Never knew anything. I woke up. I don't recall how the conversation came up, but I remember and can very loudly even hear now my oldest sister having the conversation with my mother and my grandmother about how she saw my cousin George caressing my neck while I was asleep. Okay? This was alerting for her. This was alarming to her. This brought awareness to her that he had been touching me or felt comfortable enough to touch me, even with the whole full backseat of people. Like, there was some comfortability there, okay? So that explains how this had been going on for a while, okay? I can't put a time on it. My spirit doesn't give me a timeline for this. That happened to me, but it was more than once. I can remember at least 5 different occurrences, okay? I was a very quiet and shy girl. I didn't speak up for myself often. And I was, like I said, I'm only about 11, so I was processing, like, what was happening to I had the biggest breasts of all of my sisters and still do. These are augmented, but even before then, I was like in a size C before A's. Like I skipped A cups. My sisters still have A cups. God bless them. Not trying to play them. They might have moved into B's now. But like I was very endowed as a child. You know, once I hit puberty, it was over. You know, I had stretch marks to prove it, you know. Like my body grew exponentially fast. So, but during that time wasn't that time of what I understand my puberty. I remember I may have had some little rosebuds and you know, but yeah, it's still the energy of obsessed because even before then I knew my sexuality. I had already begun to understand who my womb was and exploring it physically but not internally or mentally because I still didn't know. I didn't even know truly a name for that. We're probably calling it coochie, you know, back then as little kids. Oh, it's my coochie. You know, so I just knew I was, you know, touching my coochie, you know, and that was that. But yeah, so my sister had that conversation, and then one day I remember standing in the kitchen at the night of that road trip, and my mother asked me, was it true that my cousin had touched me? I don't remember speaking of this because I was asleep. How would I know if he was touching me then? But I did speak of, yes, it's true. I remember saying, yes, yeah. I remember a little voice like, yes, it's true. I didn't go into any explanations if my auntie was watching. Nothing. Like, that comes to me now today in this moment. I should have mentioned that. But, like, I didn't mention any of it. And so the words that I remember my mother saying, only and fully still to this day, were stay away from him, meaning George. And up until about 2 years ago, I never saw George again. So, but since then, George had been trying to add himself to my Facebook. Decline. I mean, since I've been on Facebook, I've declined George messages because all I can think of is, what are you going to do? Jack off to my pictures now? Are you going to look at my children? Like, my family have an incestuous past with men and women. And it's sickening, and I want to call it by name. Asmodeus, you are not allowed in my family. Asmodeus, I talk about you today to clear you from my lineage lines. You are not welcome here. You are not welcome here. Forevermore, your energy shall not be prevalent in my bloodline. Ekoroshe kataya. I am not a victim. I am a warrior. And you shall no longer prevail on my bloodline. Ekarosho kokoetaya. As a demon of lust, prevalent through bloodlines, centuries, ancient. How can pure love exist in this condition of lust? Cannot. Okay? I was told to stay away. And I remember seeing George cracked out on a bicycle. I had just come from Lincoln Beach with my sister. I was wearing this swimsuit top and maybe some like jean bottoms, this cute style. And I was like, I saw that guy on a bicycle. When I tell you I covered up so fast, I felt so uncomfortable. After time of learning about what happened to me, we learned that this person, George, not only molested me at about 11 or so, non-penetrally, but also he penetratively had dominated my younger sibling brother. And it's not my story to tell for him. So that's where I'll leave that. But to show that this is a energy that doesn't care, it's polar. It will possess any and all genders, sexes, sexualities, mindsets to create trauma bonds, sacral chakra blocks. This is real fucking life. This is real spiritual work. This is real ancestral demons that come and stay and come to annihilate your souls through sexual energy. My mother was raped by her father's brother at about the age of 13. She shared this with us when I was, I would say, before 15. And this hurt to know that my mother, that was her introduction to sexuality, to womb, to her rites of passage as a woman. And to somehow feel that, even for myself, that I in so many ways, my brother in so many ways, walked through those same gates. These things have to be talked about. You cannot allow things to be swept under the rug, sugar-coated. I was touched by someone I trusted, and I never wanted to see them again. And decades passed before I did. And the uncomfortability was still there, as if it happened just yesterday. You know? It just calls to healing your womb, healing your mind, knowing that your molestation, those traumas that you had, some of them were your fault, and some were self-inflicted. Let's be honest, okay? This is a container of truth and honesty. Some were self-inflicted, some were willed in, and all were here for the healing. So yes, I come to this message of understanding of that, who you were before you were touched, who you were before you were raped, who you were before you ever saw porn. Your sacred innocence, your erotic sovereignty, before you were ever touched by anything externally. You were you, sacrally whole, innocent, guilty of wild and loud pleasure due to thyself. This is your birthright, to understand who you are inside out before anyone ever touches you. Anyone. So I love you. I leave you with this transmission to understand that healing is necessary. Tears are cleansing. And I have risen through the ashes of my sexual traumas, those inflicted, those non-self-inflicted, those meant to annihilate my womb. I stand in the analyzation of that so that I can heal myself, past lineages, present and future lineages. My daughter will not suffer for the things that I have due to the conversations that I'm more than eager to have with her. The knowledge of womb that I am more than eager to share with her. I know a lot of this is triggering. Trigger it out. It's time to talk about it. It's time to surrender to our stories. I'm not the only one who experienced this. And I pray that you find healing in your own sweet, sovereign, juicy, delicious, cosmic, aligned way. It's 4:59 in the morning. The 7/7 portal just 7/8 right now. 7/8/2025. Finish the last 3 days of this energy, y'all. Vibing it. I pray this message finds you in peace, in healing, and understanding. I will be sure to post it today. So today's message on today. Thank you for your time, shared space and peace. But mostly because I do want to bring this message back into the karma, you know. I've experienced a lot from my mom. What came up for me too was not only her, not sharing certain things with me as a child. I don't want to say to help combat the pain, soon to come on my journey, but to be in the space of who am I? My mother, she wasn't there. She dare I say, chose trauma over us, but my mother had found a relationship with the 1980s into the 1990s drug epidemic. And my father was a drug dealer. And my mother abandoned us for crack. She abandoned us for crack twice this lifetime. That's my truth. And I realized that a lot of times when I share stories about my birth mother, that I say that she is the example of the woman who not to be this lifetime. I don't remember my mother hugging me, kissing me, asking me how was my day, how's school. Where was the love? My grandmother, her mother, from my understanding, seems to be the most nurturing person that I know this lifetime. She always cared. It made me wonder what happened. Did my mom not experience this version of her, of my grandmother, because I gained so much through that knowledge of my grandmother and watching my grandmother, even in her passive natures, how not to be certain passive activities. Like, okay, that's not the way to go, grandma, but I feel you, do you. But yeah, so just being in this space of why was I treated this way by my mother? I describe it as being in the house with my roommate. Like, and that's even not even how I was with my roommates. In the house with a stranger. That's how I say it. A total stranger. Someone who just goes to their room, comes back out. Maybe I don't want to make up things for her, and I won't. So that's my experience. It would be like, we'll go in my room. I would never be asked about my day, how was school. I know my mom has so many kids, and I was honestly a middle child. I see myself as the middle child, so I do wonder if there's a lot to the middle child syndrome thing as well, because the oldest is being thought about, the youngest is being cared for, so it's like you're kind of just in the way there, just waiting in the water. But that was my path, and that's how I digest it, and that's my perspective. But yeah, I never felt my mother's love. And I have two children, and I want to always know that they feel that they know what that is, the nurturing, the caring, the doted. I'm doted to you. And infatuation of their growth, their self-development, their curiosity most times. And just being the mother that I always sought, that I always wanted, that I always viscerally, internally, subconsciously prayed would appear in my journey. And it's been almost 60 years, and that mother hasn't appeared. But I pray that she's been what she's needed for her. Instead, I've gained an earth mother, meaning my knowledge of who Mother Earth is, or Daughter Earth, Mother Universe. And that's who holds me. There's times when I worry, who's going to hold my children when I'm no longer here to nourish them in body, soul, mind. And God tells me, as I've been for you, as your parents were not there for you, I am your nourishment. I am their nourishment. I will protect and guide and will their journey to be. And that's the only truth I can stand in. The transformation that God has brought me through. I know that if my kids ever, come across a path where they have an immense struggle, that they will be pulled through. I have been immensely blessed on this path. Immensely. I love you, God. I love my ancestors. I love myself. I love anyone and everyone. Don't matter if you watch here, never see the video. I love you. I'm only here to ascend humanity in any way, shape, form, fashion, vibration that I can. So, I have more to this message. I didn't want it to be too long or too emotional. I know that we all have a lot of mother roles. Anything else you want me to share, Spirit? Because right now it's just like feeling like my mother was always a stranger in the home and never feeling nourished or loved by her. I would say the meals didn't feel like love either. Very much like, where were you while grandma was cooking? Because I literally was at my grandma's hip. So like I cook like a grandma. Like everyone who has my food is like, what did I just experience? Like, you took me to a whole nother realm here. And that's their grandmother's love food. So it's like, what happened? But the karma is what happened. And I pray for my mother's healing as often as I can think of it. As much as for myself and everyone else in this world, in this universe. We all need it. It's not just for me. Anything else, Spirit? Well, as of now, me and my mother are, I would say, not communicating. My mother texts me. I don't know if she noticed that I don't really text her, which is even more about the awareness of where she is right now. We were talk more than the holidays, quote unquote holidays for the year, because I don't even celebrate those anymore. So I hear from her on the holidays. She doesn't really know my kids' birthdays like that, so I don't really have to stick to her really sticking to that. And I haven't reached out this year besides when she hurt herself. My mother had an injury. And I reached out to be sure that she was okay. Even though I knew she was fine, by way of knowing, wanted her to know that I cared enough to reach out. If you've made it this far, Spirit says to drop a white heart for healing. So let me see those white hearts in the comments. I want to know that you saw this, that you felt this, that you digested this. I want to know. And I want to know that you're keeping your children most guarded this lifetime. It's the biggest reason for this message. Guard your kids. We know none of the evils here to annihilate until we know. And then it's almost a little too late. So let's stay prayed up. Let's stay aware. Keep your kids as close as you can. I don't even do daycares because of what happened to me. I'm going to be all the way honest. My kids have never been to a daycare in their life. They're 5 and going to be 6. 5 and going to be 6 coming up. They've never been to a daycare. I've had to make it work. They don't do sleepovers. We've had one friend sleepover and her mother was here. And I preferred it that way. I want you to know your child's safe. You're more than welcome to stay here too. Because that's what I do. Okay? Men are not allowed in my house. I'm single and celibate. Divorcing. Men don't run in and out my house. Never have, never will. I've had one boyfriend since my separation. And that was recent. That's been, 5 years before that boyfriend? So I don't play that. And my energy is very protected and I'm very sacred about that as I've learned about who I am, what my womb is, who my womb is. As the most intuitive seer of this universe, it's not happening. So come correct. Always and forever for the rest of this lifetime. If you're going to be a part of my life, my tribe, my anything. And you should require the same. So with that, I'll leave you with love, light, peace, healing. And that's just a small part of my story. I'm writing books on my life because this shit is crazy. And I'm not the only one. And our wombs need healing. The truth needs to be said. And I'm here for it all. I'm a truth seeker. I'm a truth teller. My womb only knows the truth. I can only bear truth. I cannot come to you with lies. I come to you with research only after I have digested most of the time. All of it's not a research thing because as we know, spirit tells us things that ain't going to be in the book. And that's part of the spiritual journey. It's unquantifiable, baby. Okay? Love you. Stay multidimensional.